Right, time for business. And Sandra Fenn is here. Hello, Sandra.
Hi, Ajo. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to you too.
You're looking good as always.
Thank you.
We
You
have
are
business.
too.
Let's go straight to business. My name is Sandra S. and I'm Afeno. Coming up tonight, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana has kept its policy rate unchanged. The lending rate has been maintained at 16% for the first time this year and the fifth since last year. Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison, says the rate was maintained due to the country's inflation outlook.
Addressing journalists at the meeting, the governor noted that they are still monitoring the market and they hope to respond when necessary by cutting down the policy rate.
The economy is positioned firmly on the path of stability, with inflation forecasted to stay within the medium-term target band of 8 ± 2%, bearing any unanticipated shocks. Under these circumstances, the committee's viewed risks to the inflation and growth outlook as broadly balanced, and therefore decided to keep the monetary policy rate unchanged at 16%, while standing ready to take decisive policy actions when necessary.
The governor also sought to explain why there was some disagreement between the Bank of Ghana and the IMF on Ghana's international reserves.
Now, in terms of the coordination with the IMF, as you know, we have the Article 4 mission from the IMF. There's a lot of coordination between us and them. In terms of program performance, when we were on the IMF program, the IMF will set targets on what they call your net international reserves, which we try to meet. So we have some common definitions of these targets. But now we are not under a fund program, so we are not bound by the IMF's definitions of net international reserves.
Well, it appears the ECO might not come on again, at least for this year. Let's hear from the governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Ernest Addison.
The delegates were not too happy with the fact that the Francophone zone had unilaterally taken the decision to rename the CIPA as an ECO, because the ECO is not safer. The ECO is not supposed to be a fixed exchange currency. And those were the sentiments that were expressed at that particular meeting. We have said that we still have many unresolved issues regarding reaching the final destination for a common currency. First is the issue of convergence, macroeconomic convergence, which is a prerequisite. And if you look at the data, many of the countries still do not meet the prerequisite to enter into the common currency.
Dr. Addison was also worried about the pace of work on the liquidated banks in terms of recovering those assets and loans.
Regarding the performance of recoveries, yes, the receiver has been able to make some recoveries. They are not as impressive as we had expected. They had recovered, last time I checked, about 1.4 billion CDs has been recovered. Now you're looking at a loan portfolio of these banks that were resolved of over 16 billion. So out of 16 billion, if you've recovered just 1.4 billion, it tells you that there's a lot of work to be done.
The Bank of Ghana is also attributing the cedi's appreciation in the first quarter of this year to improve supply of dollars for the market.
Meanwhile, banking consultant Nana Otuoye-Champon says the decision to maintain the rate is welcomed.
Well, in fact, I have always maintained that the rate decision is dependent on those who have access to the books. So although today you saw that all the indicators were positive, but still at the back of their mind are the uncertainties presently creeping into the world. This Chinese issue is something that, if you listen to the news, people who go to China and so on, now they can't go and there's a shutdown in most cities in China. So I think you have to be cautious to ensure that it doesn't derail the positive sense that.
All right, so we still want to stay on the MPC, and Dr. Lord Mensah is an economist and finance lecturer at the Finance Department of the University of Ghana. He joins me via Skype. Thank you so much for your time. This is the time the rate has been maintained at 16%, and the governor cited threats to the economy and the inflation outlook as some of the reasons for the decision coming on the back of the banking sector crisis. What's your initial reaction?
Well, if you look at happenings in with the MPR, remember Ghana, we changed our base rate as one of the indicators of pricing loans in the country to Ghana reference rate, for which the monetary policy rate plays a strong role in that baseline of pricing loans in Ghana. Now, for the sixth time that this indicator has been, kept constant, I was expecting that this time it would be reduced, coupled with, the banking sector cleanup, for which at this time the belief is that we have a stable banking sector. So I was expecting that it would be reduced, but in such a way that in the end it will be able to, inject some liquidity into the system, because if the rate reduces, it fits into the Ghana reference rate of pricing loans. So the little addition of credit risk that is added, it brings the interest rate down. But then they might have their own reason for maintaining it, because we have inflation also being in the single digit for some time now. So with all these things, my expectation was that it should have been reduced, so that at least some vibrancy in the economy will be created. Because as it stands now, be maintaining it, nobody knows which direction it will go the next time. So it turns out to be that in itself, it's more or less uncertain. So going forward, I don't know. I believe that they should have reduced it anyway.
Actually happening globally, the coronavirus. So will external factors like the coronavirus which is possibly having an impact on China and other economies being affected by the virus, will this also have some sort of effect on our commodities and subsequently see a drop in FX coming into the country, or is early days yet?
Well, yeah, it is quite early to realize that China itself is always ready to absorb any shock that will come. Remember, when it comes to reserves, China is a strong country to be counted on. So for me, I don't think the coronavirus will have a much impact on China. China has a very good access, very good buffer to absorb most of the risks that it will be exposed to. So the spillover to the global front, which in turn we look out for as a country, because we are part of the global economy, I think it's quite early to look into that.
All right, so unfortunately, we have to leave it here because of time. That is Dr. Lord Mensah, who is an economist, speaking on the monetary policy of the Bank of Ghana's decision to keep the lending rate at 16%. My name is Sandra S. and I'm back.